Sup witches, welcome back to my channel. If we haven't met yet, my name is Gianna and I'm a witch. I've recently been getting settled into a new living space, and of course it wouldn't be home without an altar. So I thought I'd show you guys how I set up my new altar and talk a little bit about everything that went into it. So with that being said, let's jump into this video. I wanted to use my altar more in my hedge writing practice, so I decided to make my altar a gateway that I can use in meditation and trance work. And each element that I've added to my altar is not only there to help empower my spell work, they also have properties of creating a divine space or connecting to the spiritual realm. This is what I'm using as my altar. It's an old secretary that I've had for almost a decade now. I've used it for storage for a really long time, and I realized it would make a really nice altar, so I painted it black to match the rest of my bedroom, and it has a brand new life as my altar. Here, I'm just smoke cleansing with some incense, and this is just to remove any residual energy before I start building the altar. The first thing I'm adding to my altar are these gorgeous amethyst string lights, and I'm attaching them to the interior with these tiny little command hooks, and I'm really just trying to space them out as evenly as possible. I knew I wanted to play with lighting in this altar because light is energy, and the amethyst lights happen to work out really well because amethyst facilitates a connection with the divine, and it really enhances the psychic senses, which is exactly the type of energy that I really want to empower my altar with. I decided to go with moss walls because I thought it would be a good way to represent the hedge in my altar. I think it's pretty visually reminiscent of the hedge. And for those of you who don't know, the hedge is the symbolic border between our world and the spirit world. As a hedge witch, I usually use a visualized hedge to help bring my awareness to the spiritual plane. Like I said earlier, I wanted to make my altar a place in between this world and the spirit world. So I thought, why not connect my altar directly to the hedge? If this video has made you want to learn more about the hedge and hedge witchcraft in general, I actually made a whole video on the subject and I plan on making more. I'll link that video in the end screen of this video for those of you who are interested in checking that out. At this point, I'm going to add the salt lamp to ward off evil spirits and negative energy. I understand very well the implications of my altar choices, and a good ward has become essential. Now I'm surrounding the base of my salt lamp with these little pebbles, and they're going to help give a little bit more form to my altar setup, but they're also going to help with grounding all of that higher vibrational energy, just making things a little bit more manageable when I'm working. The next thing I'm adding to my altar are these selenite towers. Selenite is a stone that holds all of the qualities of lunar energy. The moon is a central aspect in my craft and spirituality. I even revere it as a deity. So weaving lunar energy into my altar was very important to me. I've added in more pebbles around the base of those crystals, and I'm going to continue along with the crystal grid that I'm building. I have a couple quartz points here to help amplify all of that energy that I'm building up, and I'm going to finish off this section with an amethyst cluster right here in the middle. At this point, I'm going to start building a stone circle in the middle of my altar. This is going to be the focal point of my crystal grid and the gate I'll be using in meditation. I'm starting off with a quartz tower, and this is going to go in the middle of my circle. This is going to focus and amplify all of the energy flowing throughout my stone circle. I'm using these smaller quartz points to build a cross around the tower. This formation will help direct and balance energy and spell work, and when I'm working in trance, it'll also symbolize the crossroads. Liminal places, like where two roads cross, are considered to be points between our world and the spirit world. So crossroads are often used in witchcraft to contact the other side. Here, I've surrounded everything with little pebbles, and now the circle is starting to take shape. I decided to include a stone circle in my altar because I feel like the shape amplifies energy well, and as a hedge witch, when I cast a circle, it's usually to serve as a portal. So the stone circle is another way of solidifying my intention of using this as a place to connect with the other realm. Moving along, it's time for, yes, even more moss. I'm locking the stone circle into place with a ring of moss and finishing up the ground around it. Now that the moss is finished, I can continue on with my crystal grid. The next thing to go into the grid are these quartz clusters. I've placed one in each corner of the altar. This formation will help balance and stabilize all the energy that I've built up here, while also giving it a very powerful amplification boost. After those are set up, I'm adding in more amethyst clusters on each side of the altar just to spread out that amethyst energy. Then to finish up the grid, I'm adding pieces of white quartz around the stone circle just to connect everything and further amplify the energy focused there. The last thing I'm adding to the inside of my altar are these little mushrooms. I think that they add to the landscape, and I absolutely wanted to convey that this is a place that I can visualize and really connect to in my mind's eye. So I thought the mushrooms did that well. For the record, I unapologetically love the enchanted forest aesthetic, but the mushrooms do serve a magical purpose as well. Mushrooms are symbolic of the other world, and in folklore, they have a distinct connection to otherworldly contact. And I thought that these would be a really good way to solidify my intent of using this as a gateway and also solidifying the visual inside my head and making this truly a landscape that I can connect to with my mind's eye. So now I'll show you all of the things that I put on top of my altar. I think the most eye-catching thing I have up here is my grimoire. Full transparency, there actually isn't anything in it yet. I got it not that long ago and just haven't had the time or the patience to start writing in it. I do have big plans for this book though. This is going to be my ritual manual for all of my most used or most important workings. It'll contain instructions, incantations, and anything I need to know in the moment. Then over here I have this triangle shelf, and that houses some of my crystals. I mainly work with divination, trance, and spirit communication, so all of these crystals help enhance my psychic senses in some way. This is the crystal ball that I like to use for divination. It's really easy to see different things pop up in the pattern the stone has. I'm not really sure what type of stone it is, but it reminds me of the moon, and that really resonated with me. Down here, I have a crystal ball that's made of amethyst. I like to hold this one while I meditate. It helps to open up my psychic channels and allows me to tune into the divine. On the bottom shelf, I have a little labradorite tower on one side and an amethyst cluster on the other. In front of that shelf, I have some crystal towers, which are amazing energy generators. One is another piece of labradorite, and the other two are obsidian, which I keep for protection, and fluorite, which helps with focusing the mind. I also have some protection on my altar. This spell bottle wards off evil spirits and negative energy. I did a tutorial on the spell, so if you want to make one for yourself, I'll link that in the end screen of this video. Another form of protection that I have is this Rowan cross. It's a really good ward, and I highly recommend them to those of you who are in close contact with the unseen world. Moving on, if you've been with my channel for a while, you might recognize my wand. This is the same wand that I made in my wand making tutorial. If you haven't seen that video but would like to, I'll go ahead and leave that in the end screen too. The last tool I keep on my altar is my pendulum. This is made out of amethyst, and to be honest, the pendulum is probably the divination tool that I use the most. It's a simple tool, but highly effective. Other than that, I have a couple quartz towers, a piece of indigo gabbro, which is really great for empowerment and spell work, and another salt lamp because when you work with spirits, there is no such thing as too much salt. Since this DIY is my version of an altar tour, I thought I'd show you guys what I keep in the cabinets down here too. On the top shelf, I have a couple bags of runes and my tarot card collection. Each tarot and oracle deck has their own vocabulary, so I like to keep a few different options to read with, especially since I'm a visual reader. Then down here on the bottom shelf, I have my cauldron collection. Each one has its own purpose. The big cauldron is the one that I use for spell work. I have one just for potions, and you might recognize that from some of my videos. And the last one is the cauldron I use to send letters to the spirit world. I also keep the crystal ball that I use specifically for spirit communication down here. Due to the nature of that work, I do prefer to keep it hidden and out of the way when I'm not using it. Other than that, I like to have a couple spell supplies on hand. I keep a pentacle, a mortar and pestle, an altar cloth, some colorful candles, and an incense burner. I don't keep all of my supplies here. I have a wall for that. These are just some useful tools that I like to have ready to go. So that's my altar. I hope you guys liked this video. I'd absolutely love to hear your thoughts on my new altar setup down in the comments. If you have any questions about my altar or altars in general, go ahead and leave those in the comments section too, and I'll answer your questions to the best of my ability. Before I hop off, I want to take a moment to say thank you to all of my subscribers for the massive amount of support you've been giving my channel. I've been getting some really lovely comments that are just filled with encouragement, and this means so much to me. The community that's grown around my channel is absolutely amazing, and I'm so grateful for you guys. And until next time, happy casting!